Purdue loses their third straight game. Kentucky got walloped, and former G Leaguer Charles Bediako is sticking around with Alabama for a few more games. We're going to talk all that here in just a second.
Welcome in to Locked On College Basketball Squad Show, your go-to spot for everything happening on the hardwood, from blue blood battles to bracket busters and everything in between. Join the squad of hoops junkies as we break down the biggest stories with the boldest takes and unfiltered opinions. Because here, we don't hold back. It's the College Basketball Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks, and welcome into the second Locked On College Basketball Squad Show. We are live right now on all of the YouTube channels for our hosts joining us today. That is right. We are joined by Isaac Shade of Locked On College Basketball and Locked On Tar Heels, Leaf Tulane of the undefeated Arizona Wildcats, Derek Johnson, Locked On Jayhawks, Jake Hatch, Locked On BYU Cougars, Nick Arvin, Locked On Purdue. That's going to be a fun one a little later. And Parker Ainsworth, Locked On Cougs. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On College Basketball and various other Locked On shows here, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, of course, the #1 sports podcasting network. I want to thank all of you who have made this show your first listen or watch of the day, and remind you that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On, and you will get $20 off your first purchase. All right, folks, second Locked On College Basketball Squad Show. We're doing these once a week from now until the end of the season. We're talking all sorts of fun stuff today. Charles Bediako sticking with Alabama for the foreseeable future. We'll be with them for that game against Florida. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about tonight's insane action. Purdue losing their third straight game. We all thought we were going to talk about two other top 10 Big Ten teams losing, but both of them made incredible comebacks. We'll get to that. And Kentucky getting absolutely worked by Vanderbilt. We'll cover
that. Where's Big Blue Nation? Are they here?
Yeah, if they're here, we're going to get some real upset comments. I can guarantee you that, because there's no chance there's a lot of happy people in Lexington right now.
BYU doesn't want Mark Pope back. I'm just going to say that.
Well, at least Arkansas lost tonight. Oh, no.
Oh, no, that's right. Arkansas came back and won, folks. We're gonna start in the SEC, though. We are going to start in the SEC. We're going to talk about this Charles Bediako, Nate Oates, Alabama situation. In case you guys missed, my favorite part of this whole story so far is that Nate Oates continues to claim that I'm a high school coach and I believe in giving high school players opportunities. And then he went out and signed himself a 23-year-old who shouldn't be in college basketball anymore. Charles Bediako played for Alabama tonight in one of the more boring games of the day. If we're being honest, Alabama just absolutely steamrolled Missouri. I think it was 90-64 was the final score. Bediako, 18 minutes, 14 points, 6 boards. He looked fine. He looked good in this game. But the real storyline, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, is that the TRO is getting extended. So we're not going to have a ruling on whether Bediako is going to continue to be eligible for Alabama until sometime before February 6th. It was extended 10 days, so somewhere in that window. It was due to weather. That's understandable considering what's happening weather-wise.
Unacceptable. Make it happen.
It's a digital world. It's a digital world. Hold on.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, you can have virtually, right?
Spoiler to the people listening, we are not sitting in the same room. You can talk.
That's true. None of us are.
No, I guess we can't have our squad show because we can't all be together. What are we doing?
Did you guys see that the NCAA is requesting that the judge who initially put out the TRO be recused from the case because he donated to Alabama? Did anybody see that? That's pretty crazy.
He's not just like a he bought a t-shirt donor. This is
a
six-figure.
Yeah.
This is a involved. And at first I read the headline was like, okay, respectfully, it's probably hard to find someone in the region who's not an Alabama fan, who doesn't have tickets. It's what. This is not just some random wealthy guy that went to some games. This is a very big time donor, and this feels like when you hear about in these smaller college towns and certain athletes get away with certain things, it feels like all of this is happening in front of us in a big way. It feels very Alabama. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the South, but it feels very Alabama.
Oh yeah. I grew up in Georgia and we had all this all the time in high school football with dudes living at their grandmother's address so that they could play for certain schools. But legitimately, you put the shoe on the other foot. Let's make this judge an Auburn grad. It's going the opposite way, right? So don't tell me this is an unbiased situation. This is absolutely you have to request a change of whatever. Yes, he needs to recuse himself, of course.
Well, and the issue is, and I speak for a university that has a guy who's a former G Leaguer playing right now in Abdullah Ahmed. And obviously the argument from a guy like Kevin Young is Ahmed never signed a professional contract with the NBA, unlike Bediako, who signed a two-way and has been playing in NBA games. So kind of the apples to oranges comparison, but BYU's kind of been caught up in this, and obviously it extended out to Baylor as well because they had the whole situation with James Najee and him being an NBA draft pick. But this one, like, you can't be Nate Oates and say, yeah, I'm a high school coach who believes in giving men a chance. But then, bring a guy who's been removed from college basketball for multiple years and then say, hey, get in here. We need you.
So
go ahead.
Would respectfully think that it's also got a whole other difference to it, Jake. And I think so full disclosure, Houston was in on Abdullah, and I had a guy on the inside. They thought they had him. Like I don't mean to say Houston's innocent in that, right? Yeah. The biggest difference here to me is not the which contract exhibit 10 versus two-way versus didn't set on the floor, didn't set on the floor. It seems very cut and dry. The biggest difference to me is this guy played college basketball, had eligibility left, and opted to give it away. Like he just said, I don't want that anymore.
True.
That's a gigantic difference.
It's a reason you have to make the decision.
Did you guys see what Tennessee fans were doing with the G League stuff? So
I voted.
You voted. Okay, so
I cast my ballot.
If you don't understand what we're talking about here, so Bediako was available for the G League All-Star vote, and Tennessee fans, among others, had been voting him up, like Nick, and he was like the number one leading vote getter, and the G League took him off the ballot.
They removed him. Yeah.
Can we put the link in the chat? Can we put?
Yes. I'm going to go find it right now. Yes. Keep talking.
Yes, write-in option
right now.
The other hilarious thing, if you guys missed this, was after Tennessee won the game, they tagged the Delaware Bluecoats, which is the G League team that Bediako had been playing for, and they said, like, we want the Bluecoats, which is just absolutely perfect to do that. But to go back to the other conversation, as somebody who also is a fan of a team that's not entirely innocent here, we haven't gone after a G Leaguer, but for those who don't know, the Tyon Grant Foster preliminary injunction hearing was done by a judge who went to Gonzaga, so there is a similarity in that regard. Now, I think the majority of people would agree that Tyon Grant Foster, who legally died twice on the basketball court, probably should have gotten the eligibility from the NCAA, but that was given to him by a judge in Spokane. So I can understand, and I've seen some Alabama fans try to use that as an example. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing is what Parker hit on, which is he very intentionally threw away his eligibility. And to his credit, when he spoke to the media, or when his lawyers kind of released their statement, they straight up said, Charles feels like he made a mistake. Like he's acknowledging, like, I wish I hadn't done that, but you did do that. Yeah. And I think there need to be consequences. I wish I hadn't killed a guy, but I'm in
jail. What do you want me to do? Like,
you made a mistake. And again, like, I think Leaf was starting to hit on this too. Like the off season, like the college basketball offseason needs some kind of a deadline. And if you can declare for the draft and there's no deadline where which you have to withdraw and you can just come back to college anytime. I mean, are we setting a precedent where a player, like, let's say LeBaron Philon, declares for the draft and goes through the draft process, gets drafted in the second round, and they only offer him a two-way contract. He doesn't play very well in the summer league. Could he come back to school in August, in September, in October after training camp? Like, at this point, there's no reason to believe that could not happen. And that is a nightmare for college coaches, for people who cover college basketball. It's a nightmare for high school recruits. Like, we said, like, they're not going to be able to know, like, you're going to leave a roster spot if you think there's a 5% chance you're going to get a player like that coming back from the NBA. And unless there's some rules in place to prevent that from happening, which per this ruling, there are not. So that to me feels like the biggest concern for this going forward.
One thing that stands out to me is Bediako was good on those Alabama teams. Yeah. And this is like a note that shouldn't matter, but to me does, is Abdullah Ahmed has minimal impact for BYU. Yeah. He plays behind Keba Keita. He brings body, but he's fouled out more frequently than he's put in points. And then James Najee's done nothing. Bediako is playing sparingly and putting up 14 and 6. He was good on those Alabama teams that were very good. I believe he played on a 1 seed with Brandon Miller, and then he played the next year on another good team. So the reason he went to the NBA draft is because he believed, and he acknowledged, credit to him, that it was a mistake. But that used to mean something that you're foregoing. If the word is foregoing eligibility. And why is the NCAA spineless enough to give anyone any? But of course, like the word foregoing means nothing. Like Cooper Flagg could come back right now. Like, what's the reason that holds him back? Because he's actively on the Mavericks? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and Leaf, to your point, BYU once upon a time at Yoli Childs, you guys remember him back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
He tried to come back to school, and they dinged him 9 games for filing paperwork in the wrong order.
Yeah.
So we've jumped the shark.
Hatch, I used that as a cold open when the James Najee thing happened on college basketball because they were in the WCC at that time, so I remember that very distinctly. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, how is this the point that we have gotten to in this sport? It's insanity.
Now, it's interesting we bring up Brandon Miller because in that situation, I thought Nate Oates did not handle that well, right? Here's the thing for me with this money. This moment, this money, that's hilarious.
Also money.
I honestly do not lay this at Nate Oates' feet. He's doing what is acceptable and allowable within the rules that have been given him. I lay this solely at the feet of the NCAA for their complete ineptitude in doing anything. That's the issue here for me. By the way, let's move it back to a moment of levity. Here's some sad news, boys. The G League has taken Charles Bediako's name as 11 hours ago off of the MVP voting, so we cannot go and vote for Charles Bediako. So now we need a what do you call it, where everybody signs the thing?
Right, petition campaign,
petition to get Bediako back on the voting. Let's go.
Would be hilarious. I also think that there's an aspect of this where like they granted a bunch of eligibility between canceling JUCO years and COVID years. I mean, look, he's played for the Raptors. I get Jamal Shed could have gotten a year of eligibility left. Like does Jamal Shed, Big 12 Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, does he come back now? Like, it's never going to happen. He should not. But like those kinds of players are eligible now suddenly. Like that doesn't make any sense.
I want to see LeBron James finish his basketball career playing.
He needs a degree. Like,
That's right. Well, Isaac talks about the NCAA's ineptitude, and I want to talk about, sorry, Nick, but I want to talk about Purdue's ineptitude moving forward. 3rd straight loss for the Boilermakers after such a strong start to the season. Hey, at least they didn't give up 46 points to a freshman. Maybe that's the silver lining for the Boilermakers, but we're going to talk about that game. Some other results from Tuesday night's action, all coming up here in just a second.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The WNBA has released its 2026 schedule featuring a 44-game regular season beginning on Friday, May 8th. The league's historic 30th season includes expansion teams Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, with opening weekend highlights such as Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings, and a rematch of the 2025 finals between the Aces and the Mercury. In Unrivaled, Miami felt the breeze as Paige Beckers powered the breeze to a 75-68 win over the Lunar Owls, finishing with 28 points and 7 assists. She was joined by 20-year-old Dominique Malunga, who added 21 points, 8 rebounds, and became just the 2nd player to ever dunk in an unrivaled game. In college hoops, South Carolina handed Vanderbilt its first loss of the season with a dominant 103-74 win. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, folks, we're going to talk about this very, very exciting action on Tuesday night. A lot of heart races going on in the Big Ten. In particular, we saw Michigan nearly lose to Nebraska game. They were trailing for the vast majority of the game. Michigan State nearly lost to Rutgers, if you can believe it. That was a stunner that Michigan State and Tom Izzo found a way to win, but wasn't the same situation for Purdue. They were down most of the game to Indiana, and they made a little bit of a comeback attempt towards the end, but the Hoosiers just hit tough shot after tough shot, got this thing done. Arvin, I want to turn it over to you. At least you got to feel good that Jacob Goins, our Locked On Hoosiers host, maybe isn't here to rub it in your face, but tough to see a third straight loss for this Purdue team.
The fact that Jacob isn't here is the only silver lining coming out of this game tonight. It was a miserable experience from start to finish. First of all, 9 p.m. Eastern on a Tuesday night for Indiana Purdue, much less on Peacock, which that's a whole tangent of its own. But
at least not as many people watched it, right? Maybe that's good.
Peacock's got good shows.
No. Now a lot of the Peacock games they show on like NBC Sports Network.
If you got YouTube TV, you can get it.
Peacock's got good shows.
I don't know, but
I was quad boxing that bad boy. Let's go.
Gosh, the traders.
So we go back a little bit. You talked about UCLA, Yax not being here for this one and how that game may have broke Purdue, so to speak. But really, it goes back before that. It goes back to Big Ten play where Purdue starts out really good, but then it just felt like the energy wasn't there. They couldn't put their foot on the pedal for 40 straight minutes. And then going out of USC where you barely pull that game out, I said this isn't sustainable. Having Braden Smith put up 20 and 10 every game and Trey Coffin-Ridden not rebounding the ball. Fletcher Lawyer playing like a guy that just isn't Fletcher Lawyer. It's not sustainable. Then we see
Apologies to the Lawyer family.
Apologies to the Lawyer family. But we see that against UCLA where they fall short. And after that game, I said the UCLA loss, that's bound to happen. After Illinois, where you need that game, in my opinion, it was a must win to keep those Big Ten, to try to win that regular season championship, keep those hopes alive. You lose that one. And I say that's a disappointing loss where Keaton Wagler goes for 46 points. But now after you lose to Indiana 72-67, the phrasing goes from disappointing to embarrassing. The way that Purdue played in this game, the way that they go out after 2 straight losses, go into Assembly Hall against your rival and play with zero energy, zero will to win to start this game, get yourself into a hole. It was embarrassing. That's flat out what it was. And you can look at everybody on this roster. Nobody really had a great game. And it leaves me saying, when we started out this year, me and you, Isaac, we did a crossover to start out this year. We talked about Purdue's expectations, how for these seniors, largely it is championship or bust. And that's something that the players set on themselves. I sit here saying now, after 3 straight losses, was that unfair? Is that expectation unfair for what this Purdue team truly is? Because we haven't seen the physicality. We haven't seen the athleticism. And when you look at the Big Ten this year, how good they are with the Michigan, with the Nebraska, those 2 teams that played up against each other in a top 5 matchup, I don't think that Purdue is capable of going on the road and beating a Nebraska after the performance they put up in this game. I don't think they're capable of beating Michigan even at home after how they played in this game. After this performance against Indiana, largely I'm disappointed because you lose to your rival. I hate the Hoosiers. I'm fine with Jacob. I think he's a great guy, but I hate the Hoosiers. That's upsetting in its own right, but I'm more upset of the fact that this Purdue team just doesn't look like a championship contender right now. There are a lot of questions, and tonight was not a good night at all for where Purdue wants to go.
So, Nick, I'm also with Jacob. So can I just ask this question for Jacob Goins?
Yeah.
Wagler break the Purdue Boilermakers?
I don't know if it was Keaton Wagler. So the thing with Illinois is like, they have so many different players that it was difficult to game plan because we don't have the defense truly to match up to all their double-figure guys. So you had to guard somebody. Keaton Wagler was the one that ended up scoring. And now it's just perimeter defense and miscommunications on the defensive side. That's largely what it is. You get yourself into a hole, and these seniors play like they've never played defense before, and they've been here for 4 years. The perimeter defense is terrible right now, and it's going to continue to show up until something changes. We've seen it for more than 3 games now, but now you drop 3 in a row. I don't think Matt Painter's lost 4 in a row since COVID. So We're in a really bad spot right now.
Yes.
I've got a lot on my mind after this.
Nick, I host the Locked On Cougs Houston Cougar show, so I don't mean to pile on you with a bunch of Cougars. I was immediately watching Big 12 basketball tonight, which there's a weird DeVry to West Virginia connection actually there that I'm sure Matt and Paul do 17 episodes about. But I got a question for you about, you mentioned they didn't play 40 minutes. I'm looking at stats, looking at things here. Based on like the win probability, it doesn't look like they paid 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I almost feel like even in your anger, you're like overinflate. Like this was a 5-point loss, I guess. But like there's a lot of numbers here that indicate it wasn't that close, Nick.
No, absolutely. And when I talk about 40 minutes, that was more of a thing that's been going on for a while. We see that against, say, UCLA or an Illinois, where you go into that game and then just fall short at the end, where the offense largely played good in those games. But in this one, the offense wasn't even necessarily that great. You just get yourself into a hole early, and then it felt like largely Purdue in the second half, they were trying to force stuff on the offensive side, trying to come back against Indiana, and it just resulted in really bad looks, couldn't get the stops on the defensive side. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, because I didn't expect this going into Assembly Hall. I know it's tough to play there, and I know that at times Purdue has struggled there, but you would think after 2 losses in the expectations that this team has set for themselves, that they would have enough respect for themselves to fix or make some adjustments, fix the problems that we've seen. But the same problem showed tonight in Assembly Hall. So I don't really know. The perimeter defense is largely what I look at. They were making 3 after 3 after 3, and you get the lead down to 2. And I thought it was very poetic that a wide open 3 in the final minute is kind of what lost Purdue this game.
What stood out to me is Indiana has no size. Like, this is a really not big team. And 6'11" Reed Bailey is like, looks like he's maybe 200 pounds. Like, they don't have
terrible.
Yeah, he's not good. They don't have any bigs. They don't have any real rim protection at all. And yet, Trey Kaufman-Renn, he led the team. He had 23 points. But, Oscar Clough doesn't do anything. Daniel Jacobson doesn't do anything. Like, you have no interior presence in this game when, I mean, obviously we're a few years removed from the Zach Edey era, but, like, Trey Kaufman-Renn should be that guy. Clough should be that guy. Like,
Andy, real quick, like to your point, over the last 5 games coming into this game, so not counting this game, they were in the 11th percentile in offensive rebound rate and the 2nd percentile in block rate.
It's been
Indiana was?
Yeah, no, Purdue.
Purdue, jeez, man. What's going on down on the block?
Purdue founded something a couple of years ago with Edey. Their whole premise, and Matt Painter popularized this. If you look at all the recent teams that have won championships, they've been enormous. Well, everyone copied Purdue, and I've heard different coaches credit Painter for this philosophy of like, hey, if you don't turn the ball over, which was what killed them in losing to FDU, and you just throw the ball at the backboard and you have Edey underneath to clean it up, you're going to win because you're going to get more possessions. It still holds true. Like Arizona, the team I cover, very good at rebounding. Florida last year, UConn the 2 years before. But they've played bigger. Like Clough is a big dude who averaged 16 rebounds per game last year. And Jacobson's 7'4". And then they have TKR. What's not really working is they're not doing what they have done for years in spacing around a big, and they're not rebounding. And the other thing about the defense to stick out on the idea of like, look, most teams with 2 bigs will play drop coverage and protect the rim. They're pretty dreadful at protecting the rim, even when Jacobson's in. So yes, they're going to play in a way that, dares people to shoot threes. But against Illinois, they've got both the Avicic twins. They've got Mirkovic and all these different guys. And, of course, Wagler scores 46. But they started putting 2 on the ball finally on Wagler, and they didn't recover at all. So their core identity of playing drop coverage didn't work. Their core identity of their roster composition, which was supposed to toughen them up because they rebounded poorly last year and didn't protect the rim at all last year, hasn't worked. And Braden Smith looks great, but the rest of the team looks off. Like I didn't think I'd ever find a day I'd be anti-Purdue because I love Painter, but this team looks pretty much like second tier in the Big Ten, and that was not a conversation we thought we'd have.
Well, at least they probably got Indiana in football, right? I mean, there's probably got to be some field. Oh,
don't start with that. I'm not in the mindset to get into that.
My bad.
I'm not there right now. But to your point, Leaf, with Oscar Clough, that was someone that Matt Painter brought in very intentionally because we lose to Parker's squad in the Sweet 16. And then the bigs were a big concern where Trey Kaufman-Wren had to play center last year with Jacobson breaking his leg. But those bigs that you bring in earlier in the year, they were rebounding at a very high level. Now they're just playing like they're soft. And I don't understand. Indiana out-rebounded Purdue in the first half of this game. And Indiana has one of the worst front courts in the nation. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just at a loss for words right now. There's so much going into my head that it'll take me a bit to kind of formulate really what happened here. But it was just an embarrassing loss, one that, quite frankly, shouldn't have happened.
Would it make you feel better and everybody else listening here, since there's no SEC hosts here? Can we laugh at Kentucky for a few minutes? Because I think that might make people feel a little.
Let's go. Come on.
Can we start with Otega Owe's boneheaded moment? Did y'all see this?
I did, yeah.
Oh my word. Okay, so the free throw. I don't even remember who's going to take it out of bounds. Let's say it's Colin Chandler. He passes it to Otega Owe from out of bounds. Owe steps out of bounds to pass it in. I'm like, that's with 10 minutes left in this game. Vanderbilt just trucked Kentucky up and down the floor all night long. It was insanity. And Kentucky's coming off of winning 5 straight, and they just looked like this might have well have been that Gonzaga beatdown that they suffered on a Friday night way back in whenever that was. I mean, good night, you guys. Is Jaden Quaintance ever going to play again? Like, what is happening?
This box score, like watching this game was as bad as the box score. And I'm going to tell you some of the things in this box score because it was horrendous what Kentucky did in this game. They shot 32% from the field, 19 of 59. They shot 25% from 3. They were 58% from the free throw line. They had nearly twice as many turnovers as assists, 8 assists to 15 turnovers. They got out rebounded by Vanderbilt, who is, they had a lot of strength. The rebounding's not always been one of their strengths this year. I mean, they had 2 guys in double figures, nobody else more than 5 for Kentucky. Those 2 guys were Aberdeen and Owe, who combined to score 35 of their 55 points. This was flat out awful. And I mean, again, like you said, Isaac, coming off of 5 straight wins, finally getting some momentum. Yes. Like, and it's not like they had Quaintance for all those games. Like, he's been hurt for, and Lowe's been out. Like, this isn't a completely new Kentucky team. They're not missing a bunch of guys. Like, this is the same squad they've had pretty much all year, for better or worse. And in this case, it was pretty obviously for worse because they just got absolutely smoked.
Who wins more tournament games, Miami of Ohio or Kentucky?
Segue.
Honestly, Miami, Ohio. Like, I think Kentucky's going to make it. I think they're going to make it, but I think Miami, Ohio is going to win it. And I don't know. Miami, Ohio is weird because they're undefeated, but they win all their games by like 2 points against not very good teams.
What if they just missed the tournament, though?
Do you think Kentucky will miss the tournament, Leaf? Is that what you said?
Oh, no, I was saying Miami of Ohio. I don't think they're a lock to make it.
Yeah, no, they lose one game. They're not a lock. If they don't win their conference, they're not a lock.
Yeah, and then Kentucky could absolutely miss it. Like, the SEC isn't particularly good, so you're not getting like quad 1A wins. Like, there are quad 1s, but there aren't like big time wins in the SEC right now. Like, the best team in the SEC by record right now, by a full game, is Texas A&M, and Texas A&M to me is like an 8 or a 9 seed.
Yeah.
At bracket matrix right now, Kentucky's a projected 7, Miami, Ohio projected 11.
Match them up.
Like
7-10, do it. And I'm pretty sure Kentucky has a guy from Miami, Ohio. He's a transfer. He doesn't play for him, but I remember they got a guy from that school. So it'd be the Reese Potter game if they were to line up. And I would take Miami, Ohio.
Can I channel my inner just Mark Pope and say, these Miami Redhawks? I went to a lot of press conferences with that guy in Provo.
That was spot on. I thought that was him for a second.
I know. You're and equally as tall as he is.
No, not.
All right, let's talk Big 12. Like I said, we don't got any SEC hosts in here. We already talked the Big 10. Apologies to Nick. So we're going to talk some Big 12 basketball. We're going to talk Arizona being one of 2 undefeated teams. Shout out Miami, Ohio again. We'll talk about that epic game against BYU since we got both of you here in this show. And we'll talk a little bit about Houston and Kansas as well since you guys are here. All that coming up in just a second. But first, folks, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment, and getting tickets. Well, that used to be the hard part, but it's gotten a lot simpler now with Game Time. It has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without all the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, the fan. You can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and you can have tickets locked and loaded within a few minutes. And I love that you can see the all-in price up front and there's no surprise fees at checkout. You can also see the view from your seat. So again, you're not going to be surprised when you get to the arena. There's great last-minute options as well, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. And we'll stick with the SEC here. You can see the defending champion Florida Gators at South Carolina. Maybe not the most fun opponent, but if you're in that area, you want to go see some basketball, there's tickets on Wednesday for just $5. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets by using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It is the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it all with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. So whether you're back in those Seattle Seahawks riding with the New England Patriots or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from the kickoff to the final whistle. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Our guy Zach Blackerby not here, but Auburn 6.5-point favorites at home on Wednesday against Sean Miller and the Texas Longhorns. Check that one out. And if you want to make it count, because after the Super Bowl, folks, the football season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, folks. We're going to close out the show. We kind of talked a little bit Big Ten already. We talked some SEC with the Charles Bediako situation. We laughed at Kentucky. And now we're going to talk Big 12 basketball here to close out the show. Arizona was not in action on Tuesday night, but the two other undefeated teams were. Nebraska goes down, loses to number 5 Michigan in a game they led for 36 of the 40 minutes, something along those lines.
Give them their seconds, Andy. Give them their seconds.
Was it 36-18 or 36-14? You confused me because you told me the wrong number.
No, I don't. I would literally never do a thing such as
you would never do that. Nebraska led
my life have I
minutes.
misspoken about seconds?
Never in your life. 36 minutes, 14 seconds. Nebraska led that game. They lost. Miami, Ohio, I'm not sure what they were down most of that game to UMass as well, but they came back and won. So they are one of two undefeated teams alongside Arizona, who got a game where they were leading pretty much throughout against BYU, and yet that thing got really close at the end of that game. A couple of questionable calls by the officials made it seem like BYU might pull off the comeback. Leaf, Jacob, I know you guys were both in the house watching this basketball game, so not sure if you saw the replays of those plays at the end of that game, but really wild finish between two of the best teams in the sport.
It was an awesome game. I mean, the crazy thing was BYU was down 13 at the under 4, and the environment was still frantic and energized. And so kudos to BYU. It's my second game there, and that atmosphere delivers big time every time. The other thing I would say about this game is I don't think Arizona played particularly well in it, but they were steady throughout, and they had more bodies than anyone in the country to throw at AJ. And AJ went 6 of 24. And it looked more to me as BYU had warts than Arizona played particularly well. Arizona just steady and workmanlike on offense, and defensively they're going to make you work exceptionally hard. And they had the bodies to not double team AJ. And BYU only stayed in this game, in my opinion, because they hit 13 threes and 10 of them in the second half, a lot of them in that rally. I think Arizona played a good 36 minutes, nothing great, and an awful 4 minutes. And BYU had a flurry of threes, a little bit of Tony Padilla luck sprinkled in. And I never talk about refs. Like, I hate when people talk about refs as a big narrative. That was some of the worst officiating I have ever seen. And then I watched it this morning to see if I was going crazy. If it was the emotion of the Wildcats taking over. And I don't think so. But I live in Utah, and I was on Twitter, And I started saying like my thoughts of the game, and all these BYU guys were like, "Oh, we got hosed," and all this stuff. And I was like, "Well, I don't know how this is going both ways, but apparently it did." But nonetheless, great game. The Big 12's got 6 of the best 12, 13 teams in the country.
Well, okay, and just to add to this, Tony Padilla is. I hate the fact that I know this guy's name. I'll say that straight up. I hate the fact that when I watch a game and he's on the list of officials who are, I'm like, great, about to have something happen here. But excuse me, to your point, Leaf, I really do think Arizona, they had the bodies to throw at AJ, and they made life difficult for him. And that's what he's going to have to improve upon. Is you can't shoot 25% from the field. You can't go 1 of 8. I think from.
Wait, is that bad?
It's not good, Bob. But I think the bigger thing is, yes, BYU rallied late and they had the chance, and Rob Wright goes right among the trees trying to find that winning bucket. I would have liked to have seen them draw up a play that actually got the ball to AJ. I know that he was the first option, but Koa Pete had him bodied up and they prevented that from happening. But BYU has warts. There's just no doubt about this. This is a team that's wholly reliant on what they call their big 3. That's AJ DeBonsa, Richie Saunders, and Robert Wright III. And if those 3 are on, great. You have a shot at anybody, it feels like. The problem is if you only have maybe 1 or 2 of those guys on, that's when BYU starts to struggle. And I really do think Leaf's right in saying that Arizona, it may not have been their finest performance, but they showed everything I think that they need in terms of making a deep run in March. I really do like that Wildcat squad.
I have a little homework for Leaf to look up. So off the top of my head, the best start to a season by any Big 12 team ever is the 96-97 Kansas Jayhawks. And ironically, that's the team that lost to Arizona in the Sweet 16. That was only their second loss of the season and their only loss in regulation. But that Kansas team started 22-0. Arizona's 21-0. So I think they have a chance to break that record, but you can do the homework on that one. Just to make sure.
think I have the answer for you.
Okay.
Only 3 teams ever have gone 21-0 to start, and the last one was the Jayhawks. I don't know which the third one was, but I think they lost at number 21. So I've got.
Are you saying in all of college basketball?
Like Big 12.
In the Big 12.
Yeah.
Oh, in the Big 12. I was like, I'm saying.
I was going to say hello. I'm quite positive that's not true over here.
And he knows all about BYU going up and spoiling a 29. And
I do. I have a very distinct memory of ruining an entire evening.
I do feel safe to say I wouldn't have known the number was 21. With Arizona State next and Oklahoma State after that, I do feel fairly safe that Arizona's probably got. I guess the Arizona State game is on the road. That's a rivalry thing, but like
no.
It was wildly close in Arizona. I thought.
Shut up! Start sitting.
The thing I'd say about that game, as I've started my preview for it, is Masamba Diop, the big guy for Arizona State, hit 6 out of 6 mid-rangers, and he's actually really good. But Arizona's defense, and I talked to Jake about this a little bit before the game yesterday, that Arizona is going to get better shots than any team they play. They're going to shoot 45%. This is an actual stat. 45% of their shot attempts are within 5 feet.
Yeah.
58% of their points total are scored from 2, and then another 22 from free throw line. So they get 80% of their 90 points per game from what I like to call paint-oriented points. So they get good looks. BYU shoots 58% from 2, but they were never going to do that against Arizona because they make you shoot hard shots. And everyone I talked to on Twitter about this was like, oh, AJ loves mid-ranges. I was like, not against Ivan Karchenkov, not against Koa Pete, not against Dwayne Aristote and all these litany of bodies you can throw at him. So the difference to me about Arizona this time is it's inconceivable to expect a possible performance from Diop to go 100% from the mid-range in the game, and Odom to hit, I want to say hit 4 floaters.
Never discount Mo Odom. That man is a menace in close game.
As hot as he was in early parts of the game, he probably made decisions that lost it. I mostly say I watched that one and like Houston to Arizona State next, and like that kind of spooked me on them for a hot. So I was like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on here? And you know, whatever magic that may be, but they should beat Arizona State. They should beat Oklahoma State. 24 is at Kansas. That's at Kansas is tough for everybody, but I don't think it's crazy to say they're going to get 22 and 23, right? If that's the number we're looking at.
When do you think they lose next? Because at Kansas is 24, and then the next one is home against Texas Tech, and then the next one is BYU. Granted, that's at home for Arizona, but that's a really brutal 3-game stretch right there. They got 5 days between Kansas and Texas Tech, and they only got 3 days between Texas Tech and BYU, and then they got Houston on the road after that. That's really tough 4-game stretch. Like when is that first loss for Arizona?
I think
KenPom says it's not happening, but
Derek, is
like,
DP playing in that game in a couple weeks? What are we doing?
I want nothing with predicting when DP is playing. I do feel good about him playing against AJ DeBonte.
Derek,
He'll be highly motivated.
Is he playing Saturday? Come on, we got to have that matchup, man.
I would be shocked if he didn't play on Saturday. Arizona game, I'm not predicting that far.
I do think the matchup is good for Arizona against Kansas.
Oh yeah, but
going,
it's Allen Fieldhouse. What are we?
But going to Fog Allen, I never want to be like, oh yeah, that's a good one. But like if every game were played on a neutral, I would say that the Arizona should be favored in all of them, and then Houston would be the one I'd be most scared of.
Who do you throw at DP? Who does Arizona throw at DP?
I'd put Karchenkov. I'll tell you. So Andy and Isaac will love this because they know this is my favorite player. Ivan Karchenkov is Thomas Houck 2.0. You guys know how much I loved Thomas Houck last year, and I said like he's clearly a big time player that should be a top 20 pick, and he came back to school and is going to be an All-American. Karchenkov might be on a similar path, but when Arizona's in the NCAA tournament and hopefully going far, and every play that he guards the best player on the other team and makes open shots and makes hustle plays, like I think he's going to be the fans, like the people that are not like us and obsessed with college basketball, then appreciate. But I would put Karchenkov on DP, and you could throw in Bradley too, but Karchenkov's the defensive stopper.
Jaden Bradley is the most underappreciated guard in the entirety of Division I men's college basketball. He's insanely good.
I will just say this. Jaden Bradley made the winning play, in my opinion, even though Braden Burry's blocked.
Yes.
But Jaden Bradley getting his hand on that ball and forcing the extra action that allowed Burry's to get over to block that shot. To your point, Isaac, I really was impressed with that guard tandem from Arizona.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about BYU to you, Jake? This has bugged me for a while.
Sure can't.
Because BYU is best when AJ has the ball, but they're very heliocentric. Like if AJ plays the point guard, which he has for most of the recent games, unless the other team doesn't have bodies to throw and then doubles, that creates their rotations. When Arizona did not double, I think they made some mistakes and doubled when Karchenkov left Kostic, and that's what kind of catapulted the run. But for the most part, they didn't double, and AJ went 6 of 24 and just said, like, you got to score 30. But if a team has the bodies, and you'd think in the Sweet 16 and beyond, the round of 32 and beyond, teams will have the bodies. Why is there ever a way that Wright and AJ play well together? Because I watched them against North Carolina, the very first game of the season, the preseason. Yeah. And I just did not think that Rob Wright fit in with this mix. He's not a great catch and shoot guy. He's improved. He likes to drive super deep in the paint. So against big teams, he struggles. And AJ needs the ball. He never plays without the ball. So Richie Saunders is great, but his rhythm's thrown off by Rob Wright. And I don't think Rob Wright is a good fit for BYU whatsoever.
They've got a month here essentially to get where they play more with the pass versus the dribble drive penetration, because I don't know what it is, but Rob Wright and AJ want to just kind of like, hey, I'm going to dribble for a bit. I'm going to pass it to you. You dribble for a bit, and we'll see what we can create out of this. It's throwing off Richie Saunders, because what Richie Saunders is so good at is playing off of the pass from his teammates. That was what made him so effective last year as the most improved player in the Big 12. So they've got a month here, and Kevin Young's got to just kind of break it down for these guys and say, guys, I know you want to dribble. I know you mentioned they're heliocentric. You got to get away from that. We've got to play more as we versus me.
That's fun, folks. Go ahead.
No, I think it's interesting because, like, what's funny is that, like, AJ will probably do a lot of the ball handling at the pro level too, and you almost wonder, like, is he pushing to be like, no, I want heliocentric, like that's going to actually like where does it come from? And you also know that the pro background that BYU's coaching staff brings, like probably has some of that too, and projecting it. I frankly was I only caught parts of the game last night because I was also trying to watch some stuff getting ready for Houston and TCU this Wednesday, and it looked like to me that game shouldn't have been as close as it was. I kind of had to tune back in, if I'm being blunt, and it seemed, you know.
As did hundreds of Cougar fans who started leaving at the 3-minute mark. So yeah, no, that
as part of that conversation though, like BYU got DeBanza, and then they went out and spent $3.5 million on Rob Wright. So if they figured DeBanza was going to have the ball in his hands a lot, it seems like they could have. I mean, again, I think Rob Wright's a good player, but I'm with Leaf on the fit being a little odd, and it's like, could they have spent $3.5 million on like maybe more of a catch and shoot guy or somebody who doesn't need the ball in their hands all that much?
Yeah,
if they were planning to give the ball to DeBanza.
That's Richie right there, what you described, Andy, and that's
right.
they've got to somehow.
Imagine if they had two Richie Saunders.
Were you saying some redundancy with it? Yeah, that couldn't hurt. Yeah,
and that's why they're hoping Nate Pickens, who hasn't played at all this year, he had a season-ending knee injury, and also Dawson Baker. I know Dawson likes
Baker's gone.
Those two being gone have really crippled this lineup. So they've got to find something. And I really do think it's just sitting down with these guys and explaining, hey, if you guys want to go as far as you dream of going this season, because AJ said you want Sweet 16's the floor for this BYU squad. That's what he has said himself. They want to make a Final Four run. They're not going to do it without playing more with the pass.
And to be fair, I think you could be 4th or 5th in the Big 12 and have a Final Four run in you. I think it's that strong a conference. I don't like you're going to take some lumps along the way. That's part of this beat down here. I'm interested, Leaf, though, and this partially, Houston just lost to Texas Tech in a game that I could go on about what they shouldn't have lost, shouldn't have did back and forth. 1-1 against them this year, and that always sucks. But you mentioned Houston being a team you think they'd lose to if you're going to pick one, but you didn't say Tech, and I think there's some star power at Tech where that Anderson kid could just win a game, right? JT Toppin could just win a game. I think that there's some of that aspect of them that maybe not accounting for.
There's two reasons I'm a little lower on Tech than Houston. One, unless I'm mistaken, I think Arizona plays them at home. So that one I like Arizona playing at McHale. But even if it were on a neutral, I like that matchup because Arizona's got tremendous size, and JT Toppin is very left-hand dominant. He wants to get to his left side, and so many teams can't match up either speed and strength. Arizona can put 3 different guys on him that don't sacrifice speed and strength, and they don't run out of fouls. AJ drew 14 fouls, I believe, and 6 of them in the first half were on Koa Pete, Mo Krivas, and Tobe Awaka. And Arizona still was unflustered. We're oh, you know what? We'll just bring Dwayne Aristotle, 6'8", built like a rock. So the answer about Tech is Toppin creates and generates all their advantages. And if you double, which I was stunned that Houston doubled as much as they did. I know they often double and they do these monster traps, but they were straight doubling as opposed to trapping. Houston didn't play the normal way. And then the one player they didn't do it with was Khalifa Sacco, and he was killed during that stretch. And so I thought that Anderson, sorry to get back, I just love the nitty gritty of this. But to get back to it, I think Anderson's problematic, but Arizona's got a lot of bodies. And I just don't think Texas Tech's other guys are that scary unless you give them doubles. It's the same thing with BYU. I don't think anyone but Richie Saunders is really scary other than AJ DeBonsa. And therefore, if you face guard Richie and play AJ straight up, you're going to win because you're going to get better shots in there. I don't think Lawan Watts, Petty, all these guys are all that good unless you double. And I don't think Arizona will ever double.
And my joke in the one that Houston won, the first matchup, was that Lawan Watts was Houston's second best player. But I think that really the deal is Atwell's going to knock down open shots. And so I do feel like the pressure's got to come from somewhere. And I guess they do have a bunch of bodies, and Tech is notably not deep. It just feels like there's a superhero cape kind of thing with this Christian Anderson kid or JT Toppin, either one. And I think they're scary in that sense because all these do come down to 1-game samples. The conference is so topsy-turvy. Houston plays Tech twice and Baylor twice, and they only play the 3 guys I see on the screen here once a piece. There's a weird way that works out in Houston's favor in terms of wins and losses, but not in terms of quad 1s and 2s and all that, right? This is all kind of upside down and backwards.
And
Leaf, you're getting some pushback on from Malau 514 for only saying Richie Saunders and AJ DeBonsa scare you. Rob Wright? ? So Leaf, you must explain yourself, sir.
I think watching Rob Wright play in the games that they have lost explains it for me, but I'll give that. So he went 3 of 16 yesterday, and a lot of them were open because he's the dare shooter. He's gotten better as a shooter, but he needs the ball to drive. He drives and he doesn't pass on time, so he takes away Richie Saunders, which is BYU's X factor. If BYU gets Richie open, they're going to be awesome because he hits everything and he can pump fake and get to the rim. Rob Wright, if he gets the ball, doesn't make decisive decisions. It's like AJ, oh, Rob Wright, and then he's going to take his turn. So I just don't like the way they play together. And yes, those 2 combined for 69% those 3 combined for 69% of BYU's total points, and they score 61 combined. But if you can ask me, like, if I'm going to play BYU 1,000 times out of 1,000, I will go man to man with AJ and for Arizona, and most teams I would say this too, and then face guard Richie and say, Rob Wright, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us. I said that on my show twice in previewing BYU, and I told the guy next to me, Jake was next to me as well, but the guy directly to the left, I said, once Rob Wright got the ball, I felt good on that final possession with all the momentum the other way. I just don't think Rob Wright fits for BYU, and AJ and him are the same issue. They just need the ball too frequently. And as for Houston, I have another question about Houston. Do you think that Kingston Flemings, being as great as he is, has hurt Houston's ability to win as a team because Milos Uzan looks uncomfortable without the ball?
No, well, I think part of it also is that Milos is shooting 10% lower from three than he did a year ago. And frankly, for what it's worth, like, it's a different role, but LJ Cryer had the ball in his hands a lot last year too. I think the interesting thing to me has been really that they handed the reins over to him so quickly and said, hey, we need, we're running HB dive is what I call it, with their spread. Hey, attack downhill. We're going to get the rebound and put it back in if you miss. And they handed it to him really, really quickly this year. I think the bigger thing to me has been they're missing more of the low post scoring that would open up some of what Milos did with the floaters. If you remember what Milos did last year, a lot of the two-man game, he gets that floater. He's so consistent there. But the two-man game, Sanak has been up and down. Tugler's offense hasn't come along. They're looking for a post score there that does, and more. And I think we talked earlier this season at Leaf about that part. And like, I think Milos needs that more than the other guys do. If I'm being really honest with you, like Kingston can get his. Emmanuel's a catch and shoot. He shoots from Beaumont. We joke half the time. He's so far, but like Milos needs that two-man action to get downhill, and no one's worried about the roll man in the same way. If anything, Sanak's best screenplays have been pops, honestly. And that's been a big part of that. And the other thing is, I think they're still like working in bench guys. Like Chase McCarty's role is still kind of undefined. I say Harwell is still kind of coming along. They're figuring those kind of things out too. Harwell's a great player, but he's still figuring things out. So.
Well, as the Gonzaga fans are certainly weren't thrilled about seeing Kingston Flemings do what he did after recruiting him,
or Harwell,
or Harwell. Harwell hasn't been as good, but they pivoted to Flemings because they knew they weren't going to get Harwell, and then Kelvin Sampson said, "I'm going to just take both of them." And Gonzaga's feeling okay about their Spanish guard Mario Saint-Superior, but yeah, it would have been nice to see Kingston Flemings dropping 50 in Spokane instead of for Houston. But we'll get over it over here. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. What a fun show. Love doing these. We're going to have, again, once a week, we're going to do these squad shows with whatever hosts are going to join. So definitely check them out. You can find them in the Locked On College Basketball feed. You can find them in the feeds of whatever hosts are here live on YouTube. They'll be up on the audio platforms as well. As we always do on the show here, we always say apologies to the Lawyer family. Although, as I've said before, sometimes I think the Lawyer family might need to apologize to Purdue fans because it's been a bit of a rough year for our guy Fletcher. Let's go Wild Popes. Not a good one for them either. Cheers to the Mick Bruins, even if our guy Zachary Anderson-Yoxheim are not here for the show. And until next time, folks, peace out.
Peace.